Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon from Sweden, and welcome to this month's live stream on the topic Fueling Business Growth with the Power of Bolt's Employer Brand. And before I properly introduce today's guest, we'd love to see your energy as usual in the comments section. So let us know where you're tuning in from and if you have any burning questions for us. Meanwhile, for anyone that's new to my live stream, my name is Sarah. I'm a part of Adway, and we boost your quality of hire using social recruiting technology to target untapped talent. And everyone who comments summary in the comment section will get their hands on all the key takeaways and all the sources from this insightful session. And that's all you have to do. Just comment summary and it's yours. So without further ado, let's give it up for today's guest, the powerhouse Grete Kivi, Global Employer Branding Manager at Bold. Woo!
Hey, super awesome to be here.
I feel like it's Eurovision. Don't you feel like it?
It is very much of a Eurovision vibe here. Welcome from Tallinn.
Sweden calling Estonia. Okay, so Grete, we're thrilled to have you here. And can we just start by you telling us a little bit about your journey, how you're driving impact in employer branding to fuel business growth?
Yeah. So my background is very much in marketing. I started my career in banking sector, and I was responsible for driving digital sales in a certain area. And after that, I switched over to working with different startups, helping them to scale in different ways as well. But also, always my target was more on the sales side, driving sales. So that was the main thing, very much the performance side of it. And then Bolt snatched me up with the request of joining their employer branding team. And for context, by that time, I was the second person to join in Bolt's employer branding team, and the mission was big. Bolt was looking to Bolt had already grown quite a bit in the headcount, so from 2,000 people to 3,000 people, and now there was already one person on board, but there was so much work that they needed one more additional person to help Bolt grow fast in getting the best talent on board. And I think because I have this marketing background, and for context, Grete, who's our other fabulous employer branding manager, fabulous, yeah, like both of us come from marketing background. She comes more from the storytelling branding side, I come from more the operational part of it. I think we make an excellent duo, and we both implement the things that we've learned from past, and we implement it in employer branding. So yet again, when I joined, my question was, okay, where are the KPIs? What's the strategy? How can we run our operations so that we actually impact hiring results? And that is like the very quick snapshot of what we did. And when I joined Bolt, I think that was almost 2.5 years ago, but the company itself has grown quite a bit. So, for example, we didn't have proper budget. There were no proper KPIs in place. We didn't even have any proper tracking established. So everything was just happening on the go because the company was growing so fast. So both Grete and I have been on this journey of really building up frameworks and figuring things out. And I think that is something that we're here to a little bit discuss today as well.
Yes, it's so inspirational. That's exactly what we're here to digest together. And let me just start by saying, I don't think anyone in the talent acquisition community or employer branding community have missed your strategy behind it. You've been posting a lot. You've been sharing a lot of your tests and trial.
Yeah.
It really is clear that you learn as you go and you love to test and innovate. And I think that's exactly the mindset you have to have today in TA in 2025. So I'm super excited. I cannot wait for us to dig into how you got there, basically.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's just jump in, Grete. Whereas when we started chatting, I think we've agreed and understood that employer branding is more and more seen as intangible. So how do you at Bolt measure its real impact on hiring and retention? Here's where a lot of people struggle. What's your way?
Yeah. I think so. As I mentioned, when we started, there wasn't even any proper historic data to tap into. neither Gadi or I had worked in employer branding before. So even figuring out like what makes sense to track was a
Mm,
question.
mm,
And how I even started the whole process, I took out all the channels, all the data points that I had access to. So it was our social media, our careers page, we had events, and then I just started to list out all the data points that I could gather. For example, for social media, I can see what's my reach, what's my impressions, what my post engagements. I can see how many people I drive from my social media to my careers page. Then what can I see from my careers page? How much time people are spending during a session, how many
yes.
pages are they going through during a session, how many
Yes.
sessions, so engaged visits, actually turn into applications sent, and then
Drop
later.
off rates.
Sorry.
Drop off rates as well. Where do they drop off?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just like started to list everything out. My initial like KPI track board was it was like too much, too
Yeah.
granular, too many informations. But like as I said, we had nothing, and as we went through, we started to like eliminate things that didn't make sense, and
Mm,
then now we have this like established framework of what we can see. And to be honest, like employer branding, as much as I would love to say yes, there's always a very, very clear direct correlation with hiring numbers. To be honest, there always isn't, because if I don't track my employer branding activities against hires made.
mm,
I am aware of the hires that come from these things, but at the end of the day, even if I look at Bolt's application process, there might
mm.
be 4 to 6 additional steps, multiple interviews, technical case studies. So I cannot be responsible for like bringing in a lead, but they might not be technically at that level that Bolt is looking for. But that doesn't mean I didn't.
Thinking like a
Yeah.
proper marketeer. MQLs,
Yes. Yeah.
SQLs. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
So
Yeah.
that didn't mean that I didn't do a great job. It means that I need to move the end of my funnel a little bit towards like closer to the application sent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
From
the framework,
awareness
yeah,
into
yeah.
consideration.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Funneling.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is something we today do is like we heavily target the top of the funnel. So
Yeah.
there's social media things going on, then there's paid media going on,
Yeah.
PR. Then we move into like whatever happens on our careers page. We run
Yeah.
invite based meetups or events where we
Nice.
select the audience that we want to get into the room. Then we see
Mm.
how many of those people who end up actually in the room turn into leads, and then everything ends once the application is sent, and then we measure like how many of those applications actually turn into quality leads, so when
Mm.
recruiter looks at it, they move into the next stage. And with that, I consider my job to be done. So as said, if I start tracking anything against it later, like it just doesn't make sense because I don't have the power to impact that funnel afterwards.
I love that. I would
Yeah,
challenge you though, if
yeah,
you
yeah,
could access some ATS data and reverse
yeah,
engineer and look back, you could measure time to attract, for instance. This is a
yeah.
was a limited KPI, but something that we use to give more credit to TA teams. Hence, you said
Mm,
time to hire has so much impact from all different stages.
yeah,
But I would just say you can. I'd love to
yeah,
share
yeah,
show you,
yeah.
but I
That's
fully
interesting. Yes,
aware and
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
your responsibility should end once quality hires are through, right?
yeah. But
So that's
maybe
a
more
great
about
funnel.
the numbers and so on. As said, we often work with employer branding managers. Hired said, we want to increase awareness, we want to change perception, we want to increase interest. And then you sit there like, okay, I can do like 10 different activities, projects,
Mm,
but how do I actually know that I'm moving the needle? So,
yeah.
and what we set up, so a little bit going one step ahead, I think the best way to actually understand where you're standing is to run an external market survey and actually ask people, hey, what do you think about
What's
XYZ?
the
Are we
perception? Yeah.
attractive? Yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah.
before we got to that, we didn't have the resources to run this. So we set up a control metric. So, for example,
Yeah.
if I saw that my social media reach was getting bigger, then I
Mm,
could say, okay, most likely my awareness is increasing. Or if I saw that I'm gaining a desired target audience, for example, engineers in Warsaw start to follow Bolt on LinkedIn. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, yes, I'm hitting the target audience that I need to get.
Yeah.
Or if I would see engaged visits from Bucharest coming in, I'm like, okay, whatever I'm doing is attracting the people that and making sense to them enough so that they want to learn more about Bolt. Or for
Yep.
example, with the meetups, I think that's a very interesting case study. So we've been running engineering meetups. Tallinn has
Yep.
been, or Estonia has been our main market for that, because the market is the most mature hiring market that we have today is Estonia. So it makes sense to run those events. And when we start to run that, we would see there were very poor conversion rates from people getting the invite, signing up, and then
Oh,
afterwards saying, yes, I would be interested to join Bolt. And now 4 years down the line, we've like significantly increased the number of people
ah,
who are interested to join, who actually
yeah,
show up to the events. And I
yeah.
think today over 80%, so that's a hand-picked audience who join us, over 80% would say that they're interested in a job at Bolt. And that was
Oh,
maybe 50% or
ah,
like 4 years ago. And this is where I can see, yes, like the long-term perception is
mm,
changing. And
mm.
these are the control metrics that I'm talking about. So you can even look at the things that you do, the activities you do, the channels that you have in use, and say like, hey, what are some of the metrics that I could put in place that would indicate that I'm going to the right direction? But as I said, I think the best way to actually map it down is external market survey. Otherwise, you're a little bit like there was always room for bias. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. But this is literally going in the right direction. And is there any of the metrics you'd like to share, like something that you've seen extra
Mm,
impactful?
so I think this is something. If, for
Has to
example,
differ from
yeah,
organization to
yeah, yeah,
organization. And yeah, yeah,
yeah. So, for example, if you're following Kadi or Kadi Boyle, our employer branding manager, like she talks a lot about our advocacy program,
yeah.
and we've seen that over like so we kickstarted officially last year, and
Mm,
with activating 40, only 40, not 400, 40 people, we've gotten 24 million impressions on LinkedIn. That has helped us increase 10% for visits from LinkedIn to our careers page. So like that has been a significant boost for us. But
yeah,
let me think, what are some other fun metrics?
yeah.
I
You share
think
with
I
us.
think the meetup data was the most interesting one for me
Yeah.
personally. When I was going
Mhm,
through the numbers,
mhm.
is that there I could actually map out. And
Yeah,
to be
the
honest,
stages.
yeah,
Who
yeah,
many?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
relevant the audience
yeah,
coming in, not just coming for
yeah,
the free drinks, but
yeah,
like
yeah,
literally.
yeah,
And then how
yeah,
many would follow the, yeah. But perhaps you
yeah,
can put that in the summary together. Some of the
yeah,
example metrics that's really useful. But this
yeah,
again, back to what you shared with the experiment of putting what I like to say action behind turning employees into ambassadors, because we all, when we sign a hire agreement or whatever to join a company, we're like, oh, everyone's an ambassador, yeah, you should talk
mm,
well about the company. But it's something different when you let that free on social media, taking that out to any employee. And I guess some of these, like these 40 people weren't influencers, right? They're like,
no, definitely not,
they're
definitely not. So
everyday people, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They don't
So
have
the way
millions of followers.
No, no,
No,
definitely not. No,
no,
no, no.
no.
So the way that Kadi actually put together a group is she went through to make sure that we will have people from different countries, because Bolt, we hire mostly from 5 countries, but we're present, or like the hiring activity goes on in more than 30 countries. So that we would
Yeah,
have a good selection from different countries, that we would have diversity represented. So it wouldn't be only, let's say, male engineers who are like
ah,
very active and vocal, but also people from non-tech parts,
yeah.
men, women, different ages,
Ambassadors from
different
all,
seniority
yeah,
levels. Yeah, yeah. So it was a good bunch.
reflecting the whole
Yeah,
workforce.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like what she has also said is that there weren't people who would always have like 1 million followers, or who would even feel necessarily comfortable like being present on social media. It was rather
mm,
like, do you have the willingness to try it out? Do you have, and initially we started out as a test group. So the commitment was like, hey, we're going to try this out for 2 months.
yeah,
Over the 2 months period, we're going to ask you to deliver 4 posts.
yeah.
Just like you can choose the topic, we will not say
Measurable,
what you have to write about. And
nice.
if this works, if you like it, you can continue. And from those 2 months, it has grown, like it has been running today a year, and
Yeah,
24 million impressions later. Yeah,
that's insane. I
yeah,
think a lot of us saw the post. I was like, "What,
yeah,
girl?" You know.
yeah, yeah,
And as you said, is as long as it's given in a packaging of like authenticity, and
yeah, yeah.
everyone has, can speak their free mind. And I guess you didn't show them any brochure of a
No,
new product feature. You
no,
gave the word to them, and that's
yeah,
exactly the way anyone would like to
yeah,
experience an employer brand today.
yeah,
That's, I just love that
yeah. I
experience.
would
Yeah.
also say that Yeah, I said they were given free hands. If
Yeah,
they wanted, we would check the copy, but that
yeah,
wasn't mandatory. There weren't any ready to go templates. We didn't buy any expensive third party
right.
advocacy solution. It's like Excel spreadsheet that's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
And I think that's why it's working as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done some similar tests with our clients where we encourage them to have like a team chat or a team channel, get the ambassadors
Hmm.
in, share topics and examples. As you said, you can help with like short
Yeah.
copy formatting and like
Yeah.
what's working on LinkedIn. It's authentic images, it's authentic short reels.
Yeah.
That in itself is just such a nice way. And also
Yeah.
when I come back, because I'm obsessed with targeting, right, and tapping
Yeah.
into talent attraction. So if you're available to do this strategy also behind your paid advertising, like paid job ads on social, and you get that audience you just spoke about and your
Yeah.
ambassadors audience to click on those ads,
Mm.
you can target that audience and you can find lookalikes. So it's just such a smart way to tap into
Yeah.
like their university colleagues, you know, people they studied with, all this niche people that you might as well miss out on. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. But just super quickly, Grete, moving on to the marketing survey then that you
Hmm.
you talked about. Like how obviously, since we're both in marketing,
Yeah.
we see the value. But could you just give out of our employer branding perspective, why is this necessary, and how is this helping you steer right?
Yeah. So as I said, so we had those control metrics in place, but the other thing that was coming in quite often from the TA team is like, hey, candidates say XYZ things. Oh, candidates
Mhm.
don't know enough about our XYZ offer. But it was never like properly tracked. And it was just like this and a bunch of anecdotal evidence. And then the
Uh,
question
little bit of
and
gut feeling.
yeah. So the gut feeling, the anecdotal evidence, but what actually triggered that market survey was that we saw we had a country, a
Yep.
segment, a target audience group, and then we saw a very steep drop in cold outreach response rates. And we were like, okay, so we need to figure out
Okay.
what's happening because nothing has changed. And suddenly this group that has performed well now is ignoring us. And that was the thing is like, okay,
Ah.
we need to get more insights
Mhm.
because
What
whatever I
is
have
happening
those,
here? Yeah.
yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
like whatever I
And
see on my
by
dashboard.
cold outreach, sorry, you mean like
Yeah,
email,
like
hunting, or
yeah.
search?
So like
Yeah.
whenever recruiters ping
Yeah.
candidates either
Yeah.
on email or on
So
LinkedIn,
something
so
changed. Okay. Mhm.
something changed, but nothing in our activities changed.
Mhm.
Nothing in my existing dashboard had
No.
changed, and
No.
that was something that actually triggered the market survey. And
Mhm.
then I know there's like tons of fabulous companies who help to run those like super in-depth marketing research things, but as it came like as a very very ad hoc thing in the middle of the year, I did not have the budget to like give someone 30K to like
Right.
run the
Yeah.
analysis for me. I'm like, okay, I need to like significantly narrow down
Yeah.
the
'Cause this
costs.
is blocking our
Yeah,
results.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so what we did is I put together, I think there was just like 10 questions. So,
Mhm.
and my goal was to make it rather easy to click through, easy to
Yeah.
answer, because most likely they're going to do it on their phone. If it's like a super in-depth question where they need to answer tons of
Yeah.
questions, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then I divided into three parts. Is first of all, I want to understand, do they even know Bolt as a consumer brand? So what's their connection
Mhm.
to the consumer brand? And
Yep.
the next one was, can they actually pinpoint our key messages or EVP back to Bolt? So if I make a statement, do they strongly agree or strongly disagree,
Right.
or are they somewhere in the
Yeah.
between? And
Nice.
then the final block was, so who are actually then doing well on the market? So who are their top favorite employers on the market? What makes them attractive? And then
Mm.
out of these things, it was like a 10 question survey.
Yep.
Um, we used two options. So one sample size was done via Survey Monkey, which is like a survey platform. You can use it, you can test it, super easy to set
Exactly.
up.
Yeah.
And then we tested a different approach where our recruiters actually handpicked yet again the list of
Mhm.
people. We sent out
Mhm.
emails because we were running Meetup. So we're thinking like, anyways, if we're sending out those Meetup invites, we just like
Yeah.
link it
We
there.
might as
And
well.
yeah, we
Mm.
might as well. And so we got a response there. So we had two sets of sample size. One was the randomized, that whatever SurveyMonkey put
Mhm.
out. So we just filtered out there based on location and job title. And the other one was a hand-picked audience
And
by our
sorry,
recruitment
this
team.
was
Yeah.
candidates already in your ATS.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Oh,
Mhm.
that's
Yep.
a good clarification. Candidates already
Yeah.
existing innate, meaning people that our recruitment team actually wants to get on board.
Yeah.
So because with the survey, like I don't want anyone to like everyone to answer.
Obviously,
Like
you want
I
everything
want to
about.
narrow it down. Like I want
Yeah.
to understand why aren't you clicking my emails? Let me know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Your
And then
ICT target.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and then I analyzed the results myself. And the whole thing, I think like from putting together to getting the analysis done was like 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And literally the only cost was so you need to give people incentive to actually respond to a survey. They will not do it for free.
Yeah.
And I think our average cost was 30 euros per answer. And
Okay.
for example, we gave out Bolt credits as well, like ride hailing credit if you
Smart.
do
Why
it.
wouldn't
So
you?
like if you
Smart.
have a product that you can do it, tap into it.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think as a result, we ran the survey with 1/3 of a cost that was pitched to us by other agencies.
Yeah.
But the answers that we got there were very, very impactful. For
Yeah.
example, I think that's like relevant for everyone is Bolt has a very strong consumer brand because the products, especially if it's a market where we have multiple products out.
Mm.
So people, like over 90% of people could even name one of our products. Over 80% of them had used Bolt. And then we come to a point where this like realization is that strong consumer brand doesn't equal strong employer brand. So
No.
like it kind of makes sense if I say it, but at the same time that was a tiny bit of a shocker for me. I'm like, what do you mean? How do you know? Don't know what I'm doing here? Yeah,
I
and
can see
I
the both way. I can see them. Yeah.
yeah. So that was a very interesting insight,
Yeah.
and yet
Just
again,
question
people.
because I'm super
Yeah,
curious.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I mean, obviously there's gonna be different responses to, I guess, different job categories in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
instance, not every job category would associate Bolt, I guess, with a tech company,
Yeah, and
right?
and that was one of the insights that we gained as well is
Yeah.
um, there were less people than we would have liked to have who would have said like, yes, Bolt is a tech company.
Mm.
And in different markets the perception of just being a taxi company, for example, was a
Ah,
stronger. And then a very strong like data
interesting.
oversight there was, the more people think we're a tech company, because we sent the questionnaire out to engineers, the
Yeah,
more likely they are to be interested in us, and the more likely
obviously.
they are to be aware or pay attention of what we're doing with employer branding.
Obviously, because
And
there's a
then
whole different
yeah,
thing of
yeah,
attracting
yeah,
drivers only
yeah, yeah,
to attract, senior
yeah,
developers.
yeah.
A
And I'm
whole
gonna say our team doesn't attract drivers or couriers. There's like a
Yeah,
full
but I
separate
guess it's
department.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
perception,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
If
yeah,
people
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, back to straightening that out helps you your and
yeah,
your employer branding work a
yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah, and that means we need to like go back to the top of the funnel and say like,
Yeah.
okay, so now we need to
How can
create
this impact the
awareness.
messaging?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that Bolt is a tech company.
yeah.
Fun.
I
And
love that.
like,
And yeah, and back
yeah,
to your point, like this is then you draw a line in the sand. This is
yeah,
your starting point, and whatever you have with this information is just going to help you evolve and move the
yeah,
needle with the metrics you like to choose
yeah,
that put
yeah,
context behind the issue. So, for instance, this will never stop. Like there won't be a finish line,
yeah, yeah,
right? Well,
absolutely,
the
absolutely.
finish line will be if every engineer in the world,
Yeah,
but
would
right,
their top choice would be Bolt. Yeah,
yeah, then we can go home.
yeah, yeah, it's done. Yeah,
But this is so interesting, and this is again what helps us into moving employer branding into a revenue driving factor, where you can tie this into what does this mean for the
yeah,
bottom line. And in this
yeah,
case, if every engineer would choose Bolt and would know Bolt as a tech
yeah,
company, that I mean, it just makes so much sense.
yeah.
But just to wrap up that thing, if you were to give any, like, for teams with tight budgets, like
Mhm.
what are the biggest impact with limited resources when it comes to
Yeah,
doing initiatives like this? What's the best tip?
yeah. So my best tip for limited budgets is figure out what you want to achieve. Like, are you struggling with awareness?
Yeah,
Is there issue with applications not converting? Or like,
yeah,
where is the problem? Figure it
yeah.
out. And then you take all of your resources and you tackle that one problem. So you don't go and tackle 10 problems. You don't go and launch 5 different channels,
Nice.
2 event series. You narrow down your focus because you don't have the money to do everything at once. That
Brilliant.
would be first thing. And but my second next hot take is, like, people always ask like, oh, how can you do employer branding with limited budgets? Yes, there are
Mm,
ways. For example, advocacy program, having a
mm.
really strong careers page, you can most likely do that with internal resources.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's employer branding. It comes
It
down
is.
to top of the funnel. You
It
need
is.
to have reach behind it, and you need
Yeah.
to have budget to invest into getting that reach, and not
Yeah.
just with any like average assets, because AI is there, which means
Yeah.
everyone can create mediocre stuff. People are like over flooded with content. The question is, how can you create top converting, great creative assets and put reach behind it? And that takes money. And sorry, like my honest take is, if you are not willing to invest that money, maybe you're not ready to run employer branding. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. But again, to a very valid point, media spend. It's media spend. Like you can't get reach
Yeah.
for free. I mean, outside the advocate program, where organic
Yeah.
reach is one thing on one platform. I
Yeah.
guess this was LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
But if you're tying in talent attraction into multi-channel strategy on the platforms your candidates love, which is most going to be Meta, it's going to be TikTok, it's going to be
Yeah.
Snapchat, it's going to be everything, then you have to invest in that. And I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you've already touched upon it, Greta, but I think you said tying back and positioning employer branding within Bolt has made you get a bit of a bigger budget. No?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So because for example, with the market survey that we actually ran, we were able to pinpoint down like some very very valid problems that
Yeah.
will limit our TA team being successful unless we were to invest money to address those problems, that same
Mm.
awareness problems, and that
Look at
actually
you
helped
building a
us to
business case.
so yeah, and that was a business case, and that actually helped us to get a significant increase on our this year's employer branding budgets, because we were to able to wrap it up in like a proper strategy. Yeah.
I'm so proud. I love this. There's nothing I love more than seeing TA teams and EB teams build their business cases, go into the
Yeah.
boardroom and say, hey, if I'm going to do my job right, this is what we
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Just like a sales manager would, just like a marketing manager would.
Yep.
Why would
Yeah.
we be any different? I love
Yeah.
that. I love
Absolutely.
that. Mic drop. I love that. I love that. Okay, so there's always going to be a lot of questions on this. So keep hitting us in the comment section and keep commenting summary to access all the insights from this show. But just quickly, Greta, you guys at Bolt, you operate obviously in different markets. How is there any quick tip on how you tailor your employee branding efforts to the different regions? You were
Hmm.
sort of touching on it with the different
Yeah.
initiatives, but is that your way to tailor?
Yes, so this is like a way we figured out so far. It doesn't mean that like a year from now I would
Yeah,
say the same thing. So
no,
so far what we've done is, so what this market survey actually made us realize, that even though, as said, our consumer brand is quite similar in those markets that we
yep.
operate in, our employer brand isn't in the same level. And so we mapped out like 5 different stages. I didn't figure out the concept myself. I found it on LinkedIn. Shout out to Talent B if someone's looking from
Nice,
there. They
nice.
found it, and I just like stole it with pride, implemented that bolt.
Pay it
So
forward.
yeah, so the first stage is that no one knows your consumer brand, no one knows your company. So that's the first stage. Here you just have to tackle awareness, and most likely headhunting is the way that you will fill in your TA pipelines. The next
Mm,
stage is you have a negative consumer brand. There has happened
mm,
something, a scandal, whatnot. People don't want to join you. They're hesitant.
mm.
So here yet again, you have to collaborate brand, PR to really build up that function, and only
Yep,
running employer brand is not going to give you any results. So
not
then
gonna
we
solve it.
reach to the third category, where consumer brand is strong and you're getting some interest from your desired audience, but not enough maybe in volume or the quality of applications.
Mm,
And this is yet again where you start to tackling targeted way in awareness. So you're not saying to everyone, hey, join Bolt, but you're selecting those target audience that you want to say, like, hey, I like you, please come here, you're awesome. Then the fourth stage is that you already get like very strong application conversions, you're the preferred employer on the market, and this is the moment where you can start moving down on the funnel. Maybe it's time to start doing events or maybe
mm.
sponsorships, or like
Yeah,
coming step down, and you have
yeah.
the room to tackle those more smaller audiences. And the fifth one is where every employer branding team wants to be, is you're the top choice, you have raving fans, everybody wants to join your company. So today it's more like Google, Amazon, Netflix. If you think about these companies, they're most likely in the top 5. So, and this is the framework we used. We figured out where each of our market is, and based on that, either we go very much top of the funnel, or we can start coming down in the funnel, and then we figured it out that way.
I love this. This is your guiding metrics that guides
Yeah.
you whatever market, whatever job category. where you're
Yep.
supposed to be investing in what
Yep.
initiative. I love that. This is so good. And guys, keep commenting summary. You would love to get your hands on this summary and key takeaways. This is golden. And time is ticking, as always, when we have a great time. We're two 90s ladies who just loves and share the passion of employer branding. We've come to a section where I like to call 10 quick ones, just because, I want to take the temperature check and see where you're at this, Grete. And make sure this you just reply what comes to mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
first
I'm
one.
scared for this part. Okay, but let's go.
We have to be social media
Yeah.
friendly. Remember, we're in
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, some say employer branding is outdated or just fluff. What's your take?
Oh, that's a very hot take to start with. But I would say why companies might feel that way is because they've misprofiled what they actually want employer branding to achieve. And based on that, they misprofile the hire of the employer branding person they want to get on board. So I've seen many companies who don't know what they want out of employer branding. They will bring someone in, for example, a big company, just saw a use case, a big company, global reach, and the only person they have doing employer branding is employer branding content specialist,
Hmm.
whose role is literally to build, I don't know, 3 LinkedIn posts, 2 Instagram posts. That's their job ad. And then the people on the upper management might say like, oh, employer branding is just a fluff, look at it, it's not achieving anything. But as a company, you most likely should have gotten on board first a very strong senior strategist who can then start building up the content team. So people are sometimes doing misprofiling the role and misprofiling the hires, which will result in
Yeah,
fluff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
missing the point of tying it back to revenue and growth.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
100%. 100%. I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
employer branding is evolving super fast. What's your hardest take for TA leaders who needs to take this shift on board?
Alrighty. So, as a little bit said, like everyone is using now AI, which means there's just like influx of content, influx of campaigns, and now the question is, how are you going to stand out? And this is where extra creative effort should come in. And I would say that's something the TA leads will have to think about of standing out in the candidate in the flood of content.
Well said. Very well said. Okay, what's the biggest misconception about employer branding today? Kind of what you touched upon as well.
Mm, misconception. I think it comes back to the fluff part.
Mm,
That is just like fluff. There's
mm,
no impact.
mm.
And yet again, I will say the impact sometimes is very tricky to measure. Case study, there was someone who joined Bolt after 7 years of thinking about joining Bolt, and oh my god, yeah. So you never know like how long the cycle is until you actually get someone on board. Like, was it an interview they read, a video they
Right.
saw, a conference they attended, whatnot? But at the same time, there were multiple touch
Mm,
points, what
mm.
at the end of the day made that person to join.
Yeah, yeah. The beauty of social media is that you can have source attribution on a detail level today, which is
Mm,
beautiful. But yeah, 2 point. It's
yeah.
definitely about choosing the metrics that puts what you do into context. Okay, what's one employer branding strategy that companies often overlook?
Having a strategy. Yeah.
Check. Okay. How can TA teams balance urgent hiring needs with long-term brand building? I think you said this very
Mm,
well.
I think both are relevant at the same time. So that's the
They are.
question. How can you do both at the same time? So you
Yeah.
have different activities for the long term brand building and then the capacity actually to support with ad hoc, with recruitment ads, or
Mm.
for example, the things that Adway is doing might be an additional, like, great addition to that. Yeah.
Nice one. Nice one. If a company just starts to invest in employer branding, where should they focus? I guess you tackled it with your 4 or 5
Yeah. So
stages.
yeah, yeah. So figure out where is your market level today.
Yeah.
Based on that, figure out what do you need to tackle,
Mm.
and then put your resources in there. And the thing is, even if you test, not everything will always work. You will
Nope.
flop. You will,
Yeah.
but see these as learnings. You're like, okay, we tested something for 2 months, it didn't work. We're gonna put it aside. We're not gonna spend the rest of the 10 months on it. We're gonna
Yeah.
figure something else out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great
narrow
one.
focus. Yeah.
Narrow focus. I love that.
Yeah.
What's the role of social media in employer branding going forward, according to you?
Very important. Like, you need to have proper social proof. At the end of the day, people want to hear from people. People
Yes.
enjoy reading those like personalized stories, I
Yes.
think it plays a massive part. Definitely
Mm,
something that should not be undervalued. The question is there just like how can you keep it authentic and not corporate, even
I
if
love
you
that.
are more conservative company. I think that's the
Yeah.
challenge there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where experts come in as you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Looking ahead, is there any trend or anything you see especially shaping the future of employer branding?
I think it's the same things as we see. It's still AI. To be honest,
Obviously.
like I don't know how my work is gonna be impacted by AI. I mean, not like will it be eliminated, not, but more like what are the tools that make sense
Yeah.
to implement
Exactly.
quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But what else? What else? What else? Trends, trends, trends. I said it's the content flooding, definitely.
Yeah, so standing out with authentic,
Yeah,
real, like stuff that
yeah,
resonates. I guess what to
yeah,
your point, it's not just pushing out
yeah,
Gen AI imagery. It's actually having a storytelling experience that
yeah,
resonate well. So I think
yeah,
that's what we see with the big brands as well. They are
yeah,
moving towards connecting on a personal level with the audience, and that's exactly where at least we see employer branding going as well. And I think it's time to shift the narrative from like doing one thing. You said multi-channel, but then you have to have the resources. So I would
yeah,
rather be
yeah.
very successful with, for instance, targeting or like my paid ads than being everywhere and trying to
Yes,
be everything for
yes,
everyone. Like pick the lane,
yeah.
stay
Because
in
at the
that
end of the
lane.
day, you don't like you don't need everyone to visit your careers page. You don't need like
No,
influx of
no,
like CVs you cannot manage through, which is actually a
no.
problem that we have had. Is like
Yeah,
we completely shifted our ad strategy because that was what our ads were doing. It's just bringing
yeah,
in influx of CVs our TA team couldn't filter out. You need
exactly.
to you need to like get that one person on board, and now the
Yeah.
question is how can you do it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We always say optimize for quality of hire. That's what
Yeah,
we're doing.
absolutely,
So volumes
absolutely.
is you're gonna
Yeah,
need to pick the right ones and the right
yeah,
channels.
yeah,
But this has been so useful, Grete. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're
yeah.
already over time, but this is just going to thing. We can't stop. I just love this. I need to fly
Yeah,
into your office and we need to have a sit
absolutely.
down and we need
Yeah,
to break down all of the rest
yeah,
of the steps. But it was so nice having you on. And everyone who's watched this show, comment summary, and we will send you the full summary with all key takeaways. And make sure to follow the employer branding team at Bolt and Grete, of course.
yeah. Thank you so much. And you didn't lie when you said the 30 minutes are just gonna fly by. Thank you so
It
much for
does.
having me.
It's
Yeah.
insane. Thank you, Grete. Take care, everyone. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye bye bye. See you in the feed.